Yeah, it was. I think, there's some positive we can take from it. Offensively, I thought we made some strides. Special teams got to get a little bit cleaner. And, unfortunately, every time we get going on offense, we get a drive going and we score some points, I feel like we give up a touchdown every time, right? So, the bye weeks, there, I told the guys, take some time to reflect on it. I will as well, look at all the games, find ways we can find and be creative to find an edge. But, yeah, I think that's what it is. Those guys got to lick their wounds a little bit, spend some time with their family, and, let's look at some things and let's come back motivated with a lot of urgency.
Consistency is basically what you're missing right now. What can you do to improve that?
Yeah, the pre-snap penalties, it's been too much on offense, and we've had too many penalties on defense. Yeah, we got to find ways to, maybe we shrink it, and try to find an identity, what we're good at, right? Try to get Coxie the ball more. I think Mattel stepped up tonight. We got some guys that can make some plays, but like you said, consistency hasn't been there. We've done some good things, but we haven't done it for a full 60.
Defensively, how did you guys feel like you struggle with that matchup with Kenny Lawler? What exactly, is it just good player making those plays, or just coverage areas you felt could have done better?
Well, I think he made great plays on the ball. Kenny's a great player, but at the same time, I thought we were peaking in the backfield. We got him in our blind spot. We lose sight of where he's at, right? Now we could play some different coverage too, to play cloud coverage and try to stop those deep balls. So we got to look at that defensively. Find ways where we can keep it in front of us a little bit better. We ought to understand that Kenny's one of the best receivers in the league. He makes those plays, but we can't make it that easy on him.
Is this also just, you guys have been hit hard by injuries on defense, and it's starting to take the toll?
Well, we're not making excuses for that, right? All these guys are pros. That's why they're playing professional football. Next man up is always our motto. But, maybe on a short week, I would say that. But, they outplayed us. I just feel like we got to find an identity as a team. We got to come together and find ways to win. And, as a coach staff, we got to look at ways to put them in the right position.
Ryan, obviously when we spoke Sunday, you said you weren't too thrilled with the offensive effort in that game. Translated tonight, like you mentioned, they did take some strides there. Was there anything in particular, apart from what you've already said, that impressed you tonight?
Well, I think we got to find a way to run the football, you know what I mean? And, we allow them to get after the quarterback. Our whole line's on the island when we're stuck in second and long. And, I got away from the run game because we were stuck in second and long, right? I thought our run game got better in the second half. We got to find ways to run the ball. Now, is it looking at more gap schemes? Right now we're just been a zone team, and we got to find ways to get creative. I think our perimeter games were pretty good. You've seen that, the speed sweep with Kevin. We had another one set up for the tailback. We didn't block the edge properly, and being the second 14. So, a lot of work to do.
And then just another one for me. How good does it feel to have that trust with Janarian Grant back there that, when he's returning balls, anything can happen at any moment, whether it's a special play or even like tonight with the hook and lateral to score the touchdown?
Yeah, that was a great design by Mick. Janarian's special player. And I think that was a boost we needed to do, get back in the game. But then again, our cover units, we give up another return to the house, right? At the wrong time. There's never a right time for it, but I just feel like once we dig our way back and we get back in the game, then we kind of give them a score every time. So I got to look at the analytics on that. I got to look at the different things. So, all three units, we're just not there yet. And, if the offense isn't playing well, then we need the defense to pick it up, right? Same thing, the offense got to pick it up when the defense isn't, getting stops. And then special teams has got to be consistent, all 60.
Ryan, you said before this game that it's a must-win. You go into the bye week now. What's the objective over the next 7 to 10 days?
Well, I got to look at a lot of stuff over the bye. We'll run our reports and our self-scouts, but I want to look at the film. The film don't lie, so we're going to have to look through every play this year, all three phases, and look at what we're doing good, what can we build off of that we've had some success at. But, we got to get creative. We can't just line up and play football. We're not playing that good right now.
And maybe this is going to be open-ended intentionally, but we're expecting changes throughout the roster in terms of like when you look at the film and make adjustments in terms of guys in positions and whatnot?
Yeah, I think, Laybourne played pretty well. I think, maybe he found a spot on our offense playing tailback. And, I don't want to make any, suggestions that we're going to make any changes until I look at it. But, the tough part is we don't really have a lot of bodies to put in there. So we'd have to, look at our scouting department, anybody we can bring in the building. But, we got to use this week to get healthy and, recharge our batteries.
Dwayne Ford,
kind of described it as feeling like you're on a hamster wheel. You keep spinning and spinning and spinning and keeping the offense going, but it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. Did it feel like that as the game was going on?
I felt like, when you're out there on offense, you try your best, regardless of what's going on, special teams and defense-wise, just to focus on your job and what you can do, what you can control. I felt like we left our defense out to dry a little bit in that first half. Too many 2-and-outs consecutively after, a great first drive. And, they ended up spending a lot of time on the field that whole first half. And I'm sure that wore on them, as the second half progressed and, they're fatigued and everything like that. So you have to make sure we're doing our job even when we're not scoring, because every drive isn't going to be a touchdown drive. But, you want to at least get a first down or two, flip field position, give your defense a chance to look at film, correct mistakes on the sideline. If you're 2-and-out in 30 seconds, the defense can't really make many adjustments and can't get much of a rest. So we can't put them in that position that first half. And I think, in the second half, I'm just proud of the way the offense fought and proud of what the guys did, the focus that they had, the energy that they had throughout the drives to keep rolling. And, we knew, I think when we scored one of our last touchdowns and we went down 2 scores with like 6 minutes left, everybody was still feeling really good on the sideline. And, unfortunately, it just didn't shake our way at the end.
Just you overall, your progression, just as the weeks have gone on and on. Obviously, like they were saying, it's like the hamster wheel. But how do you feel about going into the bye week knowing, hey, our offense just has kept progressing as the season's gone along here?
It feels good to have the positive plays and the positive drives that we've had. I think there's a lot of things to build on in that, and but at the same time, you want to play a full 60, and that's what we haven't really put together quite yet through the first 5 games. We've played really good at times, and sometimes for some extended times, but our bad drives have to be better. The bad drives still have to be, like I said, you still have to gain 20, 30 yards and flip field position and, do your job in that regard. So, we'll keep looking at ways and especially myself with my decisions and things like that to protect the ball better and to make sure that we're staying on the football field longer.
And I just want to talk about Kevin Mattel. Obviously, he's a guy who put a lot of work in the offseason, just getting faster, leaner. Even last year, he was hurt a lot with the Grey Cup. I know you guys had the one connection there. What have you seen from him that's been so impressive throughout these first few games?
His energy and his just commitment to the culture that we're trying to set. I think one of the biggest plays probably nobody saw was on our last touchdown drive. We were down there, I think, with a second down and 10 or so, maybe on the 25-yard line, and I threw a swing route out to the running back. And Kevin ran a little snag route over the tackle to that side. And as soon as he saw me through it, he bursted faster than he really ever runs and got out in front of the swing route as he had the ball, got an extra block for him on a DB that was coming down, and really sprung him for at least an extra 5-10 yards and got us the first down. And so to do that when we're down 3 scores with 1:20 left in the game, you've already ran a ton of routes and you're tired, but to still have that just football mind and the energy and just his attitude. That's just kind of one play that epitomizes just what he's brought and what he continues to bring in his development.
There's 10 other guys on the offense, but he clearly also had an effect in that opening drive too. What are you and Ryan going to be looking at over the course of the week to see what more opportunities you can get him into the game and get him a part of those positive series that you want to build?
I'm sure we'll, whenever you have a bye week, you get some extra practices. So you get a chance to, be creative and try to, see what guys can do and get young guys some more reps as well. Kevin has a really unique skill set, with his size and his speed, his catching ability. He ran the ball a couple times last year as well, and you can see the things he does on screens. It's an endless amount of opportunities, but you can get a lot of more of those things called and ran the more you're on the field. And if you get 60 play calls a game instead of 45, now you can start getting into your bag a little bit more. But you got to start off by getting first down so you can start reaching into the playbook and being more creative with some of those stuff.
Nick, obviously a lot of frustration and maybe after a loss like this, but now with the bye week, how do you guys as leaders and all the leaders in the room ensure that this doesn't linger and you guys go into this bye with a positive mindset in some way?
I think one of the biggest things is trying to stay around as much as you can and making sure that you're recovering your body, you're recovering your mind a little bit as well, because it's a very long season. But at the same time, you can't just turn it off completely and come back and think that you're going to be able to turn it right back on. And, the season is far from over, but at 1-4, the hole that we dug ourselves in is going to require a lot of urgency the entire season to climb back out of. It takes more than just one win or two wins to get out ahead of ourselves again. We can't be complacent with just being urgent one week coming off the bye and getting a win. We have to, for the rest of this season, for the next how many weeks, 15 weeks or so, need to, treat it like a playoff game. You can't just keep taking losses, and keep saying that, we'll turn it around next week. So making sure that when we come back, whether it's an extra practice or whatever it is, the urgency is at an all-time high, and we keep pushing ourselves and we build camaraderie through that.
At times like this, it's really hard to be disciplined. How do you work on that to get more discipline?
I think discipline takes I think a lot of it falls into trust of your teammates. I feel like the more you really trust your teammates to do their job, the guys around you to do their job, the more you can have discipline between the whistles. And if you have discipline between the whistles, it's much easier to have discipline after the whistles because things are going well and, tempers aren't flaring and things like that. But if you don't trust your guy next to you to make the block they're supposed to run the route or fill the gap they're supposed to, you start trying to do their job as well as your job, and then you're doing neither job the way you were supposed to, and then plays are being made against you. So that discipline takes a lot of trust, and that takes camaraderie, and the trust is built in the locker room and off the field just as much as it's built on the field.
The other kind of discipline that I was hoping to talk about is when it comes to being more ready next time, being able to work in the discipline it takes to be more prepared next time to correct the mistakes that you've made previously.
I think we've showed good progress. I mean, at least on the offense side of the ball. I'm on the defense side of the ball to see their film. I know they've had some really good games, really good moments, but I feel like our offensive line has made a really good improvement from week to week. I didn't get hit very much today, and they were facing a defense line that was pinning their ears back for pretty much the entire second half, knowing that we had to pass the ball. And so they did a great job working together as a unit, picking up twists and stunts and stuff that were beating them earlier in the year. Myself, I just need to continue to get better, making sure I'm not, having those one or two plays that put the ball, in harm's way. And I think the receivers are doing a great job. They've made countless plays, one-on-one opportunities and running the great routes and running hots when there was blitzes. Of course, there's things they can get better at, but it's been a steady improvement from top to bottom.